Color surrounds us so constantly that most people never question its influence. Yet ancient Jewish wisdom teaches that every shade carries a vibration, a symbolic weight, and an emotional consequence. And before we go any further, I want you to do something simple but powerful. Comment the phrase, "I choose colors that open abundance." Writing it is not just engagement, it is intention. In spiritual tradition, intention spoken or written becomes a doorway, and today, that doorway is the first step toward opening abundance rather than blocking it. Now here is the unsettling part. In the year 2026, one color in particular has become overwhelmingly popular in clothing, decor, branding, and digital spaces. And this color, according to ancient interpretation, represents constriction, judgment, and energetic tightening.
It is a shade people reach for because it feels safe or stylish, but in wisdom teachings, it symbolizes a closed gate, a subtle psychological barrier that limits emotional expansiveness and therefore restricts abundance. But before identifying this blocking color, we must understand why colors matter in the first place. In Jewish tradition, colors are not decorative accidents. They are expressions of divine qualities. Each one mirrors a spiritual force: compassion, discipline, wisdom, or joy. Just as music shapes mood through sound, color shapes it through light. And because abundance is not just material, but emotional and spiritual, the colors we surround ourselves with either invite openness or reinforce scarcity. Imagine walking into a room drenched in heaviness.
You might not consciously notice the shade, but your body feels it. Shoulders tighten, breath shortens, creativity deflates. That is the power of symbolic color. It bypasses logic and speaks directly to emotion. And emotion, in Jewish thought, is the channel through which spiritual flow enters or is blocked. When a person fills their environment with a tone associated with contraction, they unintentionally train their inner world to contract as well. This is why the year 2026 is particularly interesting. Trends have elevated this restrictive color to a level of near ubiquity in fashion, interior design, even phone themes. People who are seeking abundance are unknowingly surrounding themselves with a shade that symbolizes the opposite, limitation. But the problem is not the color itself. The issue is imbalance.
When a single restrictive tone dominates too much space, it creates an emotional environment that mirrors its symbolism. If abundance requires openness, creativity, flexibility, and spiritual receptivity, then drowning in a color associated with judgment and tightness becomes a silent obstacle. To understand how this works and why ancient wisdom warned about relying too heavily on this specific shade, we must first understand how colors function in Jewish symbolism and why their meanings have shaped rituals, clothing, art, and sacred objects for thousands of years. In Jewish wisdom, color is not merely aesthetic. It is a language, a system of signals that reflect emotional states, spiritual forces, and even the invisible architecture of blessing. If abundance is understood as a flow, then colors become indicators of whether that flow is being welcomed or resisted.
To make sense of the blocking color that has taken over 2026, we must first explore how ancient teachings interpret the spectrum itself and why certain shades amplify life while others constrict it. Every color corresponds to a spiritual attribute. Soft, expansive tones represent Chesed, kindness, openness, and generosity. These colors widen the emotional field and create a sense of possibility. Vibrant or uplifting shades align with Tiferet, harmony, beauty, balance, the feeling of a world arranged in meaningful order. And deep, grounding colors align with Gevura, discipline, boundaries, judgment, seriousness. None of these forces are inherently good or bad. Each serves a purpose. But imbalance creates distortion, and distortion creates internal resistance. This is the foundation of the ancient color language.
A healthy environment contains contrast, not dominance. When a single emotional force overtakes the others, it pulls the mind into a pattern. Too much expansiveness leads to chaos, too much vibrancy leads to overstimulation, and too much discipline, symbolized by certain restrictive colors, leads to emotional and spiritual tightening.
Color shapes more than mood, it shapes behavior. People surrounded by uplifting tones tend to think creatively, speak more openly, and make bolder choices. Those surrounded by darker or constrictive tones tend to become cautious, hesitant, analytical, and sometimes pessimistic. In Jewish thought, these responses are not arbitrary. They mirror the spiritual force of the color itself. This is why ancient ritual garments used specific colors in specific proportions.
It is why certain tones were reserved for sacred objects, while others marked times of mourning or introspection. Color taught the mind how to enter the appropriate state. It guided emotion into alignment with purpose. And when color was misused, it created confusion or imbalance. In modern life, these distinctions feel subtle, but their impact is profound. Without knowing it, people choose colors that match their emotional fears rather than their aspirations. They decorate their homes in tones that reflect stress rather than serenity. They dress in shades that broadcast heaviness rather than possibility. And because color communicates directly to the subconscious, the effect compounds silently over time. This is why the rise of a particular restrictive color in 2026 is more than a trend. It is a psychological pattern shaping millions.
But to understand exactly why this shade blocks abundance and why its symbolism has endured for centuries, we now turn to the color itself, the hue that represents constriction, judgment, and the narrowing of the inner world. There is a reason ancient texts warn about imbalance, and that reason becomes strikingly clear when we reach the color that symbolizes constriction, the very shade that has taken over clothing racks, interior design palettes, and digital aesthetics in the year 2026. That color is deep gray, a tone associated in Jewish symbolism with gevura, strict judgment, emotional narrowing, internal heaviness, and the pull toward caution rather than expansion. While gray can be elegant in moderation, its dominance creates an atmosphere of stagnation, subtly closing the gates through which abundance flows.
In sacred texts, gray appears as the midpoint between black and white, but unlike the harmony of contrast, gray represents indecision, a spiritual fog. It is neither the clarity of illumination nor the depth of introspection. It is the space where movement slows, vision blurs, and energy contracts. This tone, not as a curse, but as a warning. Too much gray leads the soul toward stillness when it needs momentum. In 2026, gray has become a cultural default. Minimalist trends paint entire homes in it. Streetwear embraces monochromatic palettes. Tech devices, apps, and interfaces rely heavily on desaturated tones, designed to reduce distraction. But unintentionally, they also reduce emotional brightness.
A person surrounded constantly by gray absorbs its symbolism: caution, judgment, neutrality, retreat. They internalize it without awareness, adopting a mindset that leans towards safety over opportunity, hesitation over action, and observation over participation. Psychologically, gray dampens energy. It quiets emotion, which can be beneficial in small doses, but destructive when it becomes the dominant tone. People living in gray spaces often describe feeling unfocused, unmotivated, or creatively flat, the very conditions that block abundance. Spiritually, gray mirrors constriction, the sense that the world is limited, the path is narrow, and blessings are scarce. And because perception shapes reality, abundance struggles to enter where emotional contraction becomes habitual. But here is the crucial nuance. Gray is not the enemy. Jewish wisdom does not forbid the color.
It warns against overexposure. Every force in the universe has a purpose. Gray helps create calm, reflection, and boundaries. But when it overtakes the environment, it replaces clarity with dullness. It becomes a symbolic fog that dims spiritual receptivity and blocks the mindset of possibility. Understanding why gray constricts abundance prepares us for the next step, recognizing how it affects your psychology and behavior in ways so subtle that you never trace them back to the environment. And once you see that mechanism, you will understand why abundance requires not just effort, but emotional conditions that allow it to land and grow. Abundance is not blocked by lack of effort. It is blocked by the emotional atmosphere in which effort occurs. And this is where the symbolism of gray becomes deeply psychological.
In Jewish thought, Every spiritual concept mirrors a human experience, and gray, the color of constriction, mirrors an inner state of tightened perception, a shrinking of possibility. To understand why this color subtly hinders abundance, we must look at how it interacts with the mind, the body, and the spiritual flow that tradition calls shefa, the channel of blessing. Gray signals the nervous system into neutrality. At first, that sounds harmless, even calming, but extended neutrality becomes numbness. It quiets emotional peaks, but it also dulls inspiration. People surrounded by too much gray often describe themselves as fine, okay, or managing, but rarely alive, visionary, or driven. Jewish wisdom teaches that abundance requires expansiveness, the ability to imagine bigger outcomes, take aligned risks, and maintain a hopeful emotional tone. Gray lowers that tone until everything feels flat, muted, predictable. In psychology, gray tones reduce cognitive stimulation and decrease dopamine response. Creativity slows. Decision-making becomes conservative. Motivation weakens, making people choose the familiar instead of the fruitful. The mind gravitates toward the path of least resistance, which often prevents growth. This is the internal mechanism by which abundance gets blocked, not through catastrophe, but through gradual emotional narrowing. Spiritually, gray represents judgment, the energy of restriction. Judgment is necessary in small doses. It keeps life ordered. But when judgment dominates, it creates self-criticism, fear of failure, overanalysis, and hesitation. These qualities paralyze abundance because they restrict movement. Opportunity requires a spirit willing to step forward. But the emotional environment shaped by gray teaches the opposite: hold back, wait, limit, protect. Gray also distorts time perception. Days begin to blend together, routines feel repetitive, and the mind loses the spark that recognizes possibility. Abundance enters through awareness, the ability to notice synchronicities, openings, ideas, and connections. When awareness dulls, opportunities pass unnoticed. Even more subtly, gray encourages emotional withdrawal. People become less expressive, less engaged, less connected. And since abundance often arrives through relationships, partnerships, clients, mentors, community, emotional withdrawal quietly starves the channels through which blessing flows. This is why the overuse of gray in 2026 is not simply a design trend. It is a collective shift toward emotional constriction at a time when many people are actively seeking expansion. Gray doesn't attack abundance, it suffocates it. Understanding this mechanism brings us to the next revelation. Gray has infiltrated daily life so thoroughly that most people do not realize how often they invite constriction into their environment. And once you see how deeply this color hides in your routines, you'll understand why abundance struggles to reach you. Color does not need to dominate your life physically to dominate it emotionally. And in 2026, gray has become so subtly woven into daily environments that most people aren't aware of how often they invite constriction into their routines. This is the hidden layer of the blockage. Gray has become the default, quietly shaping mood, perception, and decision-making from the background, while appearing neutral and harmless on the surface. Start with clothing. Minimalist fashion cycles have turned gray into a universal safe choice. People wear gray when they want to blend in, avoid attention, or feel steady, but these intentions mirror the emotional signature of the color itself. Wearing gray frequently reinforces an internal message of restraint. Do not stand out. Do not expand. Do not risk. Do not take up space. Over time, this messaging accumulates, shaping a mindset that unconsciously avoids abundance. Then consider home interiors. Entire living rooms, kitchens, offices, and even bedrooms are painted in gray or filled with gray furniture because the color seems modern, sleek, and calming. But too much gray drains the emotional charge of a room. Spaces that should energize instead flatten. Rooms that should inspire instead mute ambition. People often describe feeling tired at home without realizing that the absence of energetic color is part of the cause. Gray has also infiltrated digital life. Smartphone themes, laptop backgrounds, app interfaces, and social media layouts increasingly use desaturated palettes. This constant exposure keeps the nervous system in a low stimulation state, good for focus in brief periods, but harmful when it becomes the default. When every digital environment is gray, the mind receives the same message: slow down, limit yourself, flatten your emotional range. Even personal accessories, bags, shoes, phone cases, water bottles, follow the same trend. This repetition reinforces emotional neutrality until it becomes a lifestyle rather than a design preference.
And because humans adapt quickly, people stop noticing the emotional dullness creeping in, mistaking it for calm rather than contraction. The final hidden place is work. Offices increasingly favor gray walls, gray floors, gray cubicles, gray upholstery. While intended to reduce distraction, these environments inadvertently suppress creativity, collaboration, and enthusiasm. Workers in such spaces often describe feeling stuck, unmotivated, or foggy, all states directly linked to the restrictive symbolism of gray. When all these exposures stack together, clothing, home, technology, accessories, and workspaces, gray becomes not a color, but a constant emotional signal. And because its symbolism aligns with inner constriction, it reinforces scarcity mindset quietly and repeatedly. But once you recognize how deeply gray permeates your surroundings, the natural next question arises. If gray constricts abundance, which colors open it? Jewish wisdom offers powerful guidance here. Certain tones are believed to attract blessing, expansion, and spiritual flow, and learning them is the first step toward transforming your environment into a place where abundance can finally breathe. If gray represents constriction, discipline, and emotional narrowing, then the colors that open abundance represent expansion, clarity, compassion, and joy. The qualities Jewish wisdom teaches are essential for attracting Shefa, the spiritual flow of blessing. To shift from restriction to receptivity, one must understand which colors nourish the mind and soul, creating an environment where abundance feels welcome rather than blocked. These are not arbitrary preferences. They arise from centuries of symbolic interpretation woven through scripture, ritual, and tradition. The first color of openness is blue, symbolizing divine presence, wisdom, and clarity. In ancient teachings, blue represents the heavens, endless possibility, and spiritual vision. It expands perception, calms the mind, and invites intuition. Wearing blue, decorating with blue, or even simply viewing blue tones can help restore emotional spaciousness, countering the constriction gray imposes. The second color is gold or yellow, associated with joy, illumination, and blessing. Gold represents divine generosity, the warmth of the sun, and the sweetness of a life aligned with purpose. It energizes without overwhelming and signals optimism, a mindset proven to attract opportunity. People who incorporate gold or yellow into their environment often report feeling more awake, inspired, and willing to take positive action. The third color of abundance is green, symbolizing renewal, growth, healing, and fresh beginnings. In Jewish wisdom, green is the color of life springing from the earth, a reminder that abundance is not merely acquired, but grown. Green tones restore balance, soothe emotional tension, and reconnect the mind with possibility. Surrounding yourself with natural greens, plants, fabrics, accents, helps shift energy from stagnation into movement. Another powerful color is white, representing purity, clarity, and new spiritual channels opening. White does not energize as intensely as yellow or green, but it creates a backdrop for inspiration, allowing other colors to shine. It symbolizes a blank slate, the clearing of blockages, and the invitation for new blessings to enter. Finally, there is light pink, a color symbolizing compassion, gentleness, and emotional softness. Pink tones invite kindness toward oneself and others, an essential component of abundance, since harsh self-judgment often blocks prosperity long before external obstacles appear. Pink softens the inner world, making space for gratitude and receptivity.
What unites all these colors is their shared purpose. They expand rather than constrict. They lift the emotional atmosphere. They brighten perception. They encourage movement, creativity, generosity, and trust, all qualities directly tied to attracting and sustaining abundance. But knowing which colors open abundance is only the beginning. The next challenge and the next chapter of this journey is learning how to use them intentionally. It is not enough to know which tones uplift. You must integrate them into your environment strategically, replacing the subtle dominance of gray with shades that restore life and possibility. And doing this requires practical steps, small shifts that compound into profound transformation. Shifting from constriction to abundance does not require dramatic redesigns or expensive transformations. It requires intentional rebalancing, small and deliberate choices that gradually shift the emotional atmosphere of your life. Jewish wisdom teaches that abundance flows wherever clarity, harmony, and openness exist, and colors are one of the simplest tools for creating that environment. Now that you know which tones expand and which constrict, the next step is learning how to apply them with purpose. Begin with your living space, the environment where your emotional baseline is formed. You do not need to eliminate gray entirely. You simply need to soften its dominance.
Introduce accents of blue, a pillow, a piece of art, a decorative object to reintroduce clarity and mental spaciousness. Add touches of gold or yellow in places where you want energy, near your desk, in the kitchen, or around natural light. Include green through plants, throws, or prints to create renewal and movement. These shifts may seem small, but they recalibrate the room's emotional tone instantly. Next, address your workspace. Because work is where effort becomes outcome, its color balance matters. If your office is drenched in gray, introduce white to clear mental clutter, blue to enhance focus, or green to stimulate problem solving. Even a single object, a notebook, a mousepad, a pen cup, can interrupt the monotony of constriction and invite a gentler, more abundant mindset. Then shift to clothing, the colors you carry with you throughout the day.
You don't need to abandon gray garments. Simply pair them with a shade that opens energy. Gray and blue create clarity. Gray and gold create confidence. Gray and green create renewal. Clothing becomes a tool of emotional alignment, a signal to yourself and the world that you are stepping into possibility rather than shrinking away from it. Address your digital environment as well. Change your phone wallpaper to a tone of abundance. Use a calming blue for clarity, a warm gold for inspiration, or a soft green for balance. Shift app themes away from monochromatic gray to colors that lift your mood each time you unlock your device. Screens are the modern world's most frequent visual encounter. Transforming them is one of the fastest ways to shift emotional atmosphere. Finally, adjust your personal rituals. Use a colored candle during moments of reflection.
Keep a blue or white journal for clarity work. Bring a touch of gold into your morning routine as a symbol of illumination and optimism. These practices reinforce intention, the spiritual equivalent of tuning your inner frequency toward abundance. As these changes settle into your life, constriction begins to loosen, emotional tightness dissolves, creativity returns, decisions feel lighter. You are, in effect, salting your environment with expansion, inviting abundance to notice you again. But transformation is not only external. Colors carry spiritual meaning, and when used intentionally, they become invitations for divine flow.
To fully understand why these shifts matter, we must explore the deeper dimension behind color, the ancient belief that shades are channels through which blessing enters. In Jewish mystical thought, colors are not passive decorations. They are channels, vessels through which spiritual forces pass into the physical world. Each hue mirrors a divine attribute, shaping the emotional and energetic field around a person. When we adjust colors in our environment, we are not merely influencing mood, we are adjusting the frequency through which blessing, clarity, and abundance can flow. This is why shifting away from gray, the color of constriction, is powerful, and why shifting toward expansive colors is transformative. Blue, for example, is tied to chesed,
divine kindness. It symbolizes the infinite sky, the reminder that possibility is vast, not limited.
When you place blue where you work or rest, you invite spiritual spaciousness. It becomes a visual prayer, a reminder that the world is bigger than your fears and more generous than your doubts. Gold and yellow resonate with kavod, honor, illumination, and the radiance of divine blessing. These tones elevate consciousness, awakening gratitude, which Jewish wisdom considers the root of all abundance. When you surround yourself with warm, luminous colors, you align emotionally with receptivity, sending a silent message to the universe. I recognize what is good, and I am ready for more. Green aligns with rachamim, compassion, balance, and renewal. It invites emotional healing, restores internal harmony, and signals readiness for new beginnings. Abundance is not merely financial, it is emotional spaciousness, the feeling that growth is possible.
Green reminds the spirit that renewal is not only allowed, but expected. White symbolizes purity, spiritual openness, and the clearing of blockages. It is the color used in sacred garments, symbolizing the intention to remove ego and receive guidance. When your environment includes white, it becomes easier to think clearly, release mental clutter, and make decisions aligned with purpose rather than pressure. Light pink brings softness and compassion, warmth that dissolves judgment, a critical step in attracting abundance. Jewish mysticism teaches that self-judgment closes the channel of blessing because a heart at war with itself cannot receive. Pink reopens that channel by nurturing gentleness and emotional safety. These colors do not attract abundance magically.
Rather, they shift your internal environment, your thoughts, energy, posture, decisions, into alignment with states known to draw opportunity. Abundance requires movement, openness, creativity, faith. Expansive colors cultivate exactly those qualities. As your mind opens, possibilities become visible. As your energy lifts, motivation returns. As your emotions soften, connection deepens. And this brings us to a pivotal step, intention. Color only becomes a spiritual tool when used deliberately. A tone chosen with purpose becomes a symbolic act, a whispered invitation for divine flow. This is why ancient rituals were infused with color, to align outer action with inner transformation. Now that you understand the spiritual forces behind these tones, the question becomes, how do you create a daily practice that uses color intentionally, consistently, and powerfully? The answer lies in building a simple ritual, a color routine that clears blockages and strengthens the channels of abundance every single day. A powerful truth in Jewish wisdom is that transformation does not come from grand gestures, it comes from daily alignment. When a habit is repeated with intention, it reshapes the inner world, and the inner world reshapes reality. This is where color becomes more than an environmental adjustment. It becomes a ritual, a spiritual practice that gently clears constriction and invites abundance with every sunrise. To unlock this, you will build a simple yet profound routine, a color ritual designed to cleanse, open, and realign your energy each day. Begin with morning selection. Before choosing your clothing, pause for a moment and ask, what energy do I need today? If you need clarity, choose blue. If you need confidence, choose gold.
If you need renewal, choose green. If you need softness, choose pink. Even a small accessory, a bracelet, a notebook, a scarf, becomes a symbolic anchor. This tiny act of intention shifts your emotional frequency before the day even begins. Next, incorporate color breathing, a visualization practice rooted in mystical meditation. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and imagine inhaling the color you need. Picture blue cooling your thoughts, gold warming your heart, green revitalizing your spirit, or white clearing emotional fog. This takes less than 1 minute, yet it redirects the mind from contraction to expansion. The Talmud teaches that thought shapes reality. This practice trains your thoughts to align with blessing rather than fear. Then establish a workspace color cue. Place a small item, a blue stone, a gold pen, a green plant, a white coaster, where you will see it as you work. This cue reminds the mind continually of the emotional tone you have chosen.
When stress rises or constriction appears, your eye returns to the color, guiding you back to openness. Include a midday reset. At lunch or a short break, spend a few seconds looking at a color associated with abundance. Change your phone wallpaper to green for renewal, gold for motivation, or sky blue for clarity. This keeps your energy from slipping back into the gray state of neutrality and constriction. Evening offers the moment for closing the channel. Light a candle in a symbolic color: white for cleansing, yellow for gratitude, blue for peace. As it burns, reflect briefly on one thing that opened abundance in your day.
This ritual seals your progress and teaches your mind to recognize blessings actively, not passively. Finally, reinforce the ritual weekly. Choose one area of your environment, a drawer, a workspace corner, a digital screen, and adjust its color toward openness. This ongoing renewal mirrors the spiritual idea of tikkun, repair, showing the universe that you are committed to continuous alignment. These steps might seem small, but practiced daily, they shift your emotional foundation from constriction to possibility. Ritual creates rhythm, and rhythm creates transformation. But for this journey to conclude with full clarity, there remains one final step: gathering the wisdom, sealing its meaning, and choosing consciously what you invite into your life from this day forward. As we reach the final chapter of this journey, one truth becomes unmistakable.
Abundance is not blocked by chance, circumstance, or fate. It is most often blocked by the emotional atmosphere we unconsciously create, through habits, through environments, and yes, through colors. Jewish wisdom teaches that the world responds to alignment. When the inner world narrows, blessing struggles to enter. When the inner world expands, blessing recognizes a place to land. And color, though simple, is one of the most powerful tools for shifting that alignment. Across these teachings, gray emerged as the silent constrictor. Not evil, not forbidden, but dominant enough in 2026 to quietly compress creativity, soften motivation, and blur the vision needed for abundance. When gray becomes the default, life becomes muted. But when you step intentionally into color, blue for clarity, gold for joy, green for renewal, white for purity, pink for compassion, you send a direct message to the universe and to yourself. I am opening space. I am expanding. I am ready. The moral here is clear. Abundance grows where the emotional field welcomes it. You have learned that colors are not random. They are invitations. You have seen how the table of your home, the clothes you wear, the devices you use, and the walls around you all speak a subtle language that your soul understands, even when your mind does not. You have learned how gray whispers limitation, how expansive colors whisper possibility, and how small shifts transform the inner landscape where decisions, opportunities, and blessings take shape. And now the choice becomes yours. You can continue living in an unconscious palette shaped by trends and defaults, or you can curate your world intentionally, using color as a spiritual practice and a psychological tool. You can remove constriction, not by force, but by design. You can invite abundance, not by wishing, but by aligning. The colors you choose from this day forward will either reflect fear or reflect faith, either constriction or expansion. So as we close this journey, seal the teaching the way ancient wisdom always sealed transformation, with action. Shift one object in your environment today. Add one color of expansion. Remove one excess gray. Choose one tone that opens your heart instead of narrowing it. These small acts ripple outward, reshaping atmosphere, mindset, and opportunity. And now, your final invitation, the one that anchors everything you've learned. Comment your city or state and write the phrase, "I choose colors that open abundance." By doing so, you declare intention, you seal alignment, and you join the long chain of people who have used color, symbol, and wisdom to transform not just their surroundings, but their destiny. Abundance is not far. It is already approaching. Now, your colors must tell it where to enter.